Black Mirror, Season 2, Episode 4, White Christmas. Yes, we're back with another daily Black Mirror episode review for you lovely people at home. Make sure you subbed if you haven't subbed already. This is, of course, the first and only ever Christmas special Black Mirror episode. Is it Christmassy vibes? Is it really lovely? Let's find out. At the end of the video, I'm going to tell you what I rank this episode out of 10. Please leave a comment down below of what you think about this episode. Hopefully you're watching these episodes along at the same time as me, so it's fresh in your memory, and let's get into it. Spoiler warning ahead. Starting off with the story as we always do, and this story is jam-packed. Like genuinely, it's like 70-minute long episode. It's just jam-packed with so much cool stuff to explore. Of course, we're introduced to Potter in a random house where he walks out of his room and he's in a kitchen, and Matt, who's played by John Hamm, is cooking up a lovely Christmas dinner, but he's acting as if it's an odd thing for him to do, and he explains like they've never really interacted, these two characters, in this very small location, and it's been like 5 years. And it's very odd. It's very confusing. Like, where are they? What is this? And they're basically saying, how long has it been since we've been in here? What is in here? Where are we? What's going on? You know, there's a lot of questions as he's cooking his Christmas dinner up. They get talking, and Matt tells Potter why and how he ended up in here. Again, we don't know what here is. He's telling his story, and this is where we really delve into another like cool little technology introduced in Black Mirror. The idea that you could basically stream what you see to people to watch. It's a cool concept. However, it's used in a very dodgy, odd way. There's nothing wrong with a little cheeky dating advice for someone who's struggling. You know, an expert can help you along the way. But the fact that there was a bunch of people watching through his eyes, this whole like dating sphere and what would happen at the end of the night, they were all watching. It's kind of creepy and disgusting and sleazy. And of course, it ends very, very drastically with this kind gentleman pursuing a girl. Turns out the girl misinterpreted everything he said that night and thought that he was having maybe similar mental issues as she was, and she basically saw it as they were both going to drink this poison to escape the torment that they were in their own minds. Very dark, straight off the bat. Happy Christmas. Obviously, then we see Matt frantically try and burn and remove all of the hardware that he has with all of the data and the, you know, his whole group that he has. They're all frantically trying to destroy the evidence. He goes downstairs, makes a mess, and his wife comes out, and obviously his wife then finds out about him. And we are then introduced to another cool technology. It's like crazy. They thought, yeah, Merry Christmas. Here's a gift of cool technology. Here's another gift, and here's another gift of cool technology, which we're going to get onto shortly. But this one was the form of physically, in real life, blocking someone. Damn, that's harsh. Of course, we see the wife block him in that moment when she finds out what he was doing as a side gig. But what was his main gig? We find out that his actual job wasn't that. His main job was facilitating and implementing home virtual assistants with a difference. Who needs an Alexa? Who needs a Google Play? How about we have a physical form of you in a little box that can do all of your home tasks for you? I thought very subtle reference to later down the line, of course, like season 5 or 4, we see USS Callister first introduced. Not too dissimilar concept, a sentient cloned version of yourself, but used in a very, very different way. And yeah, this one was quite harsh. The only way to make your sentient version, you know, willing to do the tasks, the daily mundane tasks that we don't want to do, of course they don't want to do it. Oh, so how about we torture you for 6 months and leave you in solitude on your own so that you just go out of your mind? And I think it explores very quickly there in that 6-month solitude. What she's begging for in that moment is just something to do. And I think that's just a subtle reference to us as a human species. We don't necessarily need like a massive goal or something to strive for to the extreme. We literally just need something to do as a human species. We can't be in solitude, or as we will go absolutely doolally and just lose we would lose all being. So that's what's explored there. And then of course she's willing to do it now. And as they get yapping and talking, we hear loads of stories from Matt. Matt finally, you know, after a long time talking and a few drinks, gets to hear Potter's story and why Potter is in this unknown place. Is it a prison? Where are we? I don't know. We still don't know yet. But Potter talks about why he is in here as well. And we explore his life beforehand. He's got a beautiful partner who they are, you know, together. They invite some friends over and she's acting a little bit off with him and he's curious and all this stuff. Turns out that she's pregnant, doesn't want the baby. They all kick off. Then she physically blocks him. which was very interesting to see the same tool used in a different situation. This blocking thing is actually horrific, but we're going to get onto that very shortly. And this story is so long, but it's so good. And then Potter just spends the rest of his life basically, he's stalking her, isn't he? Like, but he wants to know why, and he sees that she ends up having the kid, and she just never unblocks him ever. And so he never knows the truth, he never knows anything, and he's never allowed back in that life, and he spends his life, I feel like, just still pursuing this unknown entity. He's still pursuing like this life that is no longer viable and there for him anymore. But I think that's like the being blocked makes it the unknown. Like he's never going to be able to answer those questions, so he's still curious. He's never able to tie that bow and like finish that story in his mind because he's been blocked. And then the big moment at the end, of course, she sadly passes away in a train crash. And then he's able to go to the house, her father's house in the middle of nowhere, to finally see this child that he believes is his. And then the big moment, we find out it's not his. It was actually the work colleague that they invited round. No wonder she wasn't in the mood for that dinner date, duo date. Yeah. And he loses his mind. Like he spent 5-6 years of his life thinking that was his child. Finds out it wasn't, loses his head, and which we saw earlier on and why he was blocked. Like, he has like a very rash, like he loses his head and loses his cool, and he whacks him over the head with a snow globe. And that's the story that we find out after all of this, after he reveals that and confesses that that's what he done. You know, we see Jon Hamm's character say, "Pull me out, I've done it, pull me out," and then he's removed from this realm, and we work out that actually what they were in the whole time was what we saw with the clone thingy here. Crazy. But of course, Matt was doing that because he is still, like, his story was true. Like, he is in prison for, you know, not telling the story about how he knew there was a double homicide. And his get out of jail, quite literally, was to do that task for them, reveal that this recluse, mute person did do the crime that they thought he did. And he's put on a register. He's allowed to leave it. He's put on a register. And in that register he's blocked by every single person in the world. What? That is horrific. Genuinely horrific. That is crazy. So it's like, it ends in this really somber note where we see Potter stuck in this realm where he's got to spend centuries in, but for the real world it's only like a week. And then we see Matt leave as like, he's done good. He's found out who's the real bad guy. But no, he's now blocked by every single person in the world. So he's technically in the same sort of solitude as him, but in different realms. Merry Christmas, everyone. Of course, I've really touched on a lot of the concept there through that, because the story is so intertwined with the concept, you know, it's hard to not discuss it. But let's very, very quickly go through the concepts in this episode. Of course, we start off with the eyes in your vision streaming to other people. I'm a streamer. I stream on Twitch. Come through, the links in the bio. That'd be quite cool. It would be quite cool to do. The fact that you could, you know, stream it. Very invasive though. You know, there's certain moments where he's like asking them to look away, but they carry on looking as he's like peeing, and it's a bit dodgy. That, like, I think it's like the extreme step from where we are with our phones and our cameras. Let's make it our eyeballs. You know, we've seen that as well with like developments over time. I mean, this episode came out in 2014. I don't think that was the case then, but now there's like loads of glasses that you can get that can stream your eyes and be cameras for your eyes. It's like, guys, Black Mirror has basically touched on this already a little bit. It's crazy. It's actually happening. I think the main concept is, of course, those two things. The home virtual assistant that we all have. We all have an Alexa or a Google Play or something along those lines. If not, you talk to your phone, you say, "Hey Siri." Do you know what I mean? We all have something along those lines. And the idea that is not just a random bot. It's you. You're in there. Like, imagine that. That's, oh wow. And like, how could you make yourself do that? Well, by making them think they're in there for 6 months when it's really just 5 minutes for me while I'm eating some toast. You know, he, in that moment, I think Jon Hamm plays a brilliant role in this episode, but he's just sitting there just jumping on his toast being like, yeah, while she's just stuck on her own for 6 months. It's crazy. Concept there, brilliant. I think when you think about 2014, I think that was when things like Alexas and things were really coming into most households. So that idea, that coinciding with it, would have left a lot of people being like, oh damn. What's in this box? What's in the box? Maybe. And then of course the other one that we will touch on is the in real life blocking. Outrageous. Like, that is outrageous. in real life blocking. I thought, 2014, it didn't look the best, I'll be honest. But it's not about that. Don't care. I genuinely do not care how it looked. It's the idea of it. The idea of being in real life blocked. Pictures blurred out. Everything, any memory gone. Like, oh my, like that is horrific. That's horrific. Because I think the idea of blocking is something a lot of people do. Like, I've been blocked by people in the past. You still have all your memories of them. You still have this, that, and the other. You can't literally block that person out of existence. It's just on that application. But in this realm, it's everything. And it's so final. It's so like, there's no getting out of it. You can't plea your case. You can't do anything. Like Potter in that moment when he's going over to, as he can see, his pregnant ex-partner. And to him, it's his child, so it's even more horrific. It is horrific. It's horrific. That's his, like, he's just been completely blocked out for one argument. Of course, he was very rash and very bad, and he was wrong in that. But to be completely blocked out of everything, just all he had to do was be told X, Y, Z, and he was never told that. And it just, the concept's unreal. It's good enough to just do one of them. That's what I thought was really, really cool in this episode. It's well in its rights to be good enough to do one of them. But they thought, yeah, Merry Christmas. Here's 3. Moving over, though, to the characters. And as I said, I did love these characters because we're in the moment learning about them as they're learning about each other, which I think, again, is quite cool. You got Matt, who's a bit of a womanizer and a sleazebag, because even after all of the stuff with his wife and being blocked, when he's doing the task of implementing the new home virtual assistant, he drops the same, like, horse outside line to that woman. So you can assume that he's pursued her now. He's a bit of a pest, a bit of a womanizer, like. And then you got Potter, who seems quite not innocent, but he seems more relatable to every person until we learn more about him. And then you learn, like, it's hard with him. It's hard because on paper he's quite literally stalking someone, objectively very wrong and disgusting, terrible. But with the context of being physically blocked, never knowing if that was your kid, thinking it's your kid, it's hard to hold such anger towards him until that final moment, until that final scene, until you realize why he's actually in this box, in this prison thing, because he lashed out at the father. And it's hard. All it had to be done was all she had to do was tell him, it's not yours. That would be horrific. You know what? It's not yours. Block. Then nothing plays out the same. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. But it doesn't play out like that. And I'm not saying she's the problem, but I'm just saying it could have been so different for Potter. And now he's left in just indefinite torture. Oh man. Then of course the twist. We find out that of course Matt was playing Potter all along, and he was just trying to reveal the information out of him. He leaves the tool. It's interesting to see that the tool was then used in different ways. It was no longer now just a home virtual assistant. It was a way to torture or get information out of people unknowingly to them. Do you know what I mean? The twist was that. And then, of course, the twist was the kid was never his. It was like, we've given you loads of concept this episode, and we're going to give you multiple twists. Have that. Merry Christmas. Have it all. Enjoy your dinner. I think this season of Black Mirror is when they said, yeah, let's give you some big boy twists. You enjoy that? Like White Bear and then White Christmas. They're big boy twists. And I think that's what they go on to do a lot more later down the line in Black Mirror. You're left feeling actually quite heavy afterwards. Like, it does feel like a gut punch, because the idea that even though Matt did this for them, he was still not in the clear. He wasn't innocent. He partook in something negative over here. So of course he has to still have some punishment, but to be blocked by every single person, but he was on a register. But like, to be blocked by every single person is mental. And then you've got the alternative of Potter, who of course is in his own real world sort of solitude, because he's become mute and he's not saying anything in his cell. But then his cloned version, the egg version of himself, in this prison cell for centuries, while it's only a week or two in the real world, listening to, what was it? It's Christmas. Any good song, that's a good song, but any good song played over and over again for centuries, I can imagine it'd get very painful after a while. Every time he smashes the stereo, it gets louder and louder and louder. Constant reminder of what he did. And the kid passing away because she went outside, like that twist as well. Oh, it was actually horrible. I felt really sad. Like, it was just so dark. Imagine putting that on at Christmas lunchtime. Oh, I love Black Mirror. You fancy a Black Mirror episode for Christmas, kids? Yeah. Just leaving it thinking, huh? You've ruined the vibe. You've got the wrong vibe there, Charlie Brooker. You got the wrong vibe. There's no Christmassy at all. And I actually watched it recently with my mum, who's watching this for the first time as well, Black Mirror. And she asked me, what would be worse, being physically blocked like Matt was in the real world by every single person, or being like Potter stuck in the, you know, the virtual prison house that he's stuck in for centuries, listening to that song over and over and over again, forever, for eternity. What would be worse? I have my answer. But let me know in the comments below what you think. And what you've been waiting for. What did I rank this out of 10? Well, I can let you know. I rated it an 8.5 out of 10. Yeah, 8.5 I think is a fair score. I think the only bit about this episode that annoys me is the fact that she could have just told him. It is. And if she told him, maybe he would... I think they're trying to highlight actually about his character. I should have said this earlier. I think actually what they're trying to highlight about his character, you know, he's a bit of a bad drunk. He lashes out. I think if she did tell him that, just straight verbatim, like the reason she didn't do it was because she was fearful, probably for her life, actually, thinking about it. She knew if she'd done that, you know, he threw in anger a vase of flowers across the room because she blocked him. If she revealed such a horrific thing of, I've cheated on you and it's not your child, how would he have reacted? So maybe that's why she didn't. But that was one of the reasons that annoyed me. Like, oh, if he just knew what would have happened, and he probably would have done something worse, actually, thinking about it. But I'm going to lock in an 8.5 out of 10. It could have been interesting. And I'm not saying this is a problem with the episode, but I think it could have been interesting if it was just exploring one of the concepts more, rather than a multitude of them. I don't know. But an 8.5 is a fantastic score, and it puts it here on the table. Let me know what you ranked it out of 10. And again, if you're not subscribed, please do drop a sub. Let me know what you're thinking of these reviews. We're going to continue going throughout the whole of Black Mirror. Thank you for coming through. I've been Floppyleggs, and I'll see you when I see you.